just making up stuff that he's saying, right?
No!
Hello and welcome to the Mary Mater Marvel Society. I am your host, one of your hosts, Davan, and the Star Mater with me, the Star Mater of the evening, my cousin Dave.
Hello,
there,
hello,
Dave?
and good evening from yes, I'll be the token mater here today. Nice.
Exactly. And with us, as always, is Jaemeel Robinson as well.
Salute, everyone.
And that was all of our first time seeing that intro. Murphy does those intro videos up, and that was
excellent, good, Murphy.
Well done.
I was not expecting the remix on the "Hooked on a Feeling" to come at the end there, so
I liked it.
That was quite something.
That song.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. We're spoiling the hell out of this, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
we got a spoiler. Spoiler alert! There it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Can't blame us now. That's for sure. No cease and desist letters. No angry emails. Nothing coming our way. So, as we do every time, well, first off, initial thoughts, fellas.
I'll let you go first, Jaemeel, if you'd like.
Oh wow. Okay. Someone asked me this very question about 7 hours ago before I started my drive back. I just came back from Chicago, and I told them that I was still digesting the information. So, to summarize this, because it was supposed to be short, I liked it.
Go ahead. Is that it?
Yeah. It was a tone. You have to listen to the tone as well.
Okay. Well, I liked it. It was on like a question mark was at the end.
Yes.
Okay. I would say this was a really good installment. I think it's gonna take me a while to process it completely. I think it was it was very like dark and interesting, and I thought it had some. It was a very thoughtful conclusion to the entire story of this group of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I was expecting somebody to die and then they didn't, so there was kind of some fake outs there. I don't know if that would have made it better if they had actually killed one of these characters, but overall I'd say that this was a pretty good movie overall, like just aside from it being an installment in the MCU. And I think it was a very good conclusion to the Guardians, but it kind of is a continuation, and we're going to get like sort of a new era here. So
yeah, I'm kind of have to lean towards what you're saying there, Dave. I think I really liked this movie, and I was very tired. Now I'm going to throw X-Man Dan under the bus here. I was supposed to meet X-Man Dan and Lindsay to see this movie in the afternoon, but he had bought the tickets and then told me the wrong or didn't confirm which theater we were going to when I asked him which theater. So I showed up to the wrong one. So there was no showing for me to see at the theater I went to. So I had to go back for a late showing. So I was very tired. So I even nodded off during a scene, I think, but I think I was only out for a few seconds. I'm pretty sure I remember this whole movie.
We're gonna talk about it, and then
if your memory's not completely clear here, we'll
do you remember this happened? What that happened?
I think you might have dreamt this part of the movie, David. I don't know. So
maybe, but great villain. A lot of the scenes were hard to watch, not in like a bad movie kind of way, but it's just all the abuse against animals and even children as far as imprisonment goes. Yeah, it was like, and it was all just so heart-wrenching, the story. Rocket and Lila and Teefs and Floor, his buddies. That stuff was all very sad.
But that's good.
Saddest movie ever.
They went for it, like there were real stakes. There were real like things happened, and there was like real like trauma and like interesting sort of like dynamics here and revenge and like and kind of what this high evolutionary stood for and everything else. I thought it was like its own interesting movie on its own. in just
Yeah.
how things were playing out. But in terms of this conclusion, but I thought like the humor worked for me still, but there was also some of these more like real character moments and driven things, like where the characters are yelling at each other or having it out. And I thought that stuff really worked well. But contrasted with the jokes, fine, like, in a good way. I thought that this villain was incredibly menacing and like one of the best villains we've had in a while in a single movie.
Balls to the wall evil too.
Yeah, just completely like irredeemable. Played by Chikwudi Iwuji, he was on Peacemaker, which I like. I loved. James Gunn did one season of like that Peacemaker. We'll see if there's more. Spinning off from the Suicide Squad, which she's now going to go do over at DC. And I thought it was just awesome how he brought him over from Peacemaker and throw him into this villain role as the High Evolutionary, and it was like awesome. It would just work so well, and he was so good. He was really good on Peacemaker as well.
James Gunn came out and said he's the best actor he's ever worked with.
Oh,
that's what got him over.
One thing I would like to add is that with a lot of these characters kind of having their own moments post Volume 2, it makes sense why the Christmas special happened, to kind of reset and establish a status quo that we can just jump off from volume 3, because it would have seemed too much of a jump from Endgame to here, or even after Thor too.
Where they set up shop on nowhere and everything like that.
Yeah. One thing I did like was they didn't try to take the easy way out with a lot of characters, because it could have been Gamora suddenly remembers, or Gamora is, enamored with the Guardians and, decides to stay. Everything felt real in terms of what the characters would do with their motivations, and I appreciate that greatly. It didn't feel like all of a sudden they do this because this is what the audience might want. It always felt like this is organically is what the direction the characters would go in as presented.
Yeah.
I would like to say off the top of that, I owe James Gunn an apology, because this was written and directed by James Gunn. And after the Christmas special, I had declared, I don't know if it was on camera or not, that I thought James Gunn's best may have been behind him. And I don't think that's the case now. I mean, I still think the best Guardians that's ever been is that initial jailbreak scene in the first one. But I like this one a lot better than Guardians 2. And in some ways, I think it's a better movie than Guardians 1.
I think it kind of is. Yeah. Like, I think it's
heart-wrenching.
It might be the best film. It's going to take a while. I think I'm going to have to see this another time before I can fully digest it. But I think that it's not one of these like throwaway movies, like a lot of these last few installments. Like, I felt like the Ant-Man movie didn't really work like nearly as well as this one did, in terms of just like how it was able to sort of pull on the emotions and like, make you really care about what was going on, and that there was kind of stakes with these characters as well.
I think with Ant-Man, what I just talked about in terms of characters all of a sudden kind of acting to fit a narrative as opposed to doing what the characters should do as characters, like their motivations. I think that was a problem with Ant-Man, looking back at it, where it's just like all of a sudden Ant-Man starts, doing this, and you're like, why is he doing it? That doesn't really, it seems like somewhat of a jump. Concerning your volume 1 versus 3, I don't think it's fair to compare them in terms of this one is better than the other, because I don't think either of them work without the other. Volume 1 is stronger with how great Volume 3 is, and really looking back at specific important points, we appreciate it more when you hear, even in Volume 2. And I think Volume 3 is able to work so well based upon the work that has been made in Volume 1 and Volume 2.
Yeah. Well, let's like as we often do here, I like to randomly assign different jobs to my co-hosts. So I think tonight, it's I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anyone. Dave, you're going to take us through the plot with
Oh, I wanted
Nowhere
you to do
Goes
the plot.
Somewhere with Dave.
You want me to give you the plot, huh?
Yeah, Nowhere Goes Somewhere, which is a
No.
nice nod to what happens in this movie. There, you
Well,
make
this
that track.
movie picks up pretty much where
Oh,
we.
one second, and where you may, if you perhaps fail at times or trip or stumble, that's where we have what a bunch of plot holes with Jaemeel.
Okay. You feel free to stop me, Jaemeel, and let me know where my plot holes are, or if I've forgotten to hit a major beat here. But sure. I think I can tell you what happened in this movie. I only saw it 2 days ago. So,
and I have some imagery to hopefully go along with
oh,
your
okay.
description. But
Oh,
be a
hold
nice
on.
picture.
You have the imagery.
Yeah, there's the toaster there. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Going a little 90s with this one, of course, with the soundtrack and stuff. My least favorite soundtrack of the 3 movies.
I don't know if I haven't really put these all songs together and listened to them all like in order like I have with the other 2 movies. So I'll have to see how I feel about the 2 soundtracks. I was liking the songs that were over the scenes that he picked them for, so that worked for me in the movie. We get Creep, I think starts us off in this movie, is like the first song, an acoustic version, the Radiohead. And this is like, so we pick up on where the holiday special left off with the Guardians, because we've seen the Guardians a couple times since Avengers. Like we saw them in the Thor movie and then the Christmas special, and so they're back here. But we see Peter Quill's all depressed. He's drinking himself to death over the Gamora thing, and so that's like, even though he had a nice Christmas with Kevin Bacon, that seems to not necessarily be driving things. So, but while he's depressed and they're kind of dealing with these things, Adam Warlock attacks the Nowhere, which is now the base of the Guardians. Like, if you didn't see the Christmas special, you wouldn't know that. But like Adam Warlock, who we saw was teased at the end of Guardians 2, which was like back in like 2018 or something. I don't even know what year that Guardians 2 came out anymore. It was a while ago. Right? But Adam Warlock had been teased in that thing, and then he shows up here. He's like a very powerful being who I know is from the comic books, but he's not a character like that I know necessarily or have any kind of nostalgia for.
We have a banner for that as well. But in the comics, Adam Warlock was just created by a bunch of scientists called the Enclave in the comics, and he was basically their attempt to make a perfect being. They just called him One. That's all he was called, or him. They called him him.
Right.
And then they eventually created another one, her. But so he was just super powerful, and then he's like connected to the Mind Stone, like he sometimes lives in there.
We have the soul. Does he have the?
No, it's the soul. No, it's the soul stone.
So he should have been part of the Infinity Saga, but he wasn't. So now they're bringing him in here instead. Which, okay, like I don't care.
But he is a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like of all the Guardians movies, another reason why I think I really like this one is it's based on the Abnett and Lanning run, which they all are because that's where these characters came from. Right. But a lot of them, like these uniforms.
Yep.
Straight out of the Abnett and Lanning run. Like these are the Guardians uniforms I like. The red and the
was also the game blue. Too.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Right on. Yeah. And so in this attack, Adam Warlock comes in because we knew he was from the Sovereign or whatever. Like we saw them in the last movie. They were kind of antagonists in 2. And so he attacks. He's very powerful, and the whole Guardians are struggling. He's like tearing Groot to pieces, and they can't really stop him. But I think Nebula is finally the one who's kind of like is just able to sort of neutralize him a little bit. But in this process,
Drax was holding him off quite a bit by himself.
Drax was, they have a big fight, and in this, Rocket gets really hurt, and they can't give him any kind of medical attention because his implants prevent any kind of medical treatment. There's it locks them out, so they have to kind of get the manufacturer's codes or something to unlock what's stopping them from giving him the treatment he needs, because his lungs are filling up with fluid and he's hurt. Jaemeel, you want to stop me there with a plot hole?
Just to clarify, there was a kind of a not a dead man switch, but any type of work that was done on Rocket would automatically create a self-destruct sequence. So they were trying to bypass that, and they couldn't because they needed the code to be able to get to his internal systems and work on it. So just a little clarification there.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, and then so they're like, how are we going to help him? We have to go to where he comes from, but he's never talked about his backstory too much. It's too much trauma. So they have to go find this, and I can't remember who leads them on to the journey to where they have to go. But
So okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry, I'm already stepping in. Upon reviewing the systems, they noticed that uh, they need to get a hold of, I think it's Orgacorp, Orgcorp, or
Orgo Corp or something like that. Yeah.
Orgacorp. And so Nebula states that she has a contact that can help them infiltrate to get the information, because they would have, like, the system was matching up stating that it was connected. So that's how they kind of found out that they need to go to Orgocorp.
Orgo Corp. Yes.
Yeah.
They have to go to Orgo Corp, and then they all decide they have to head there in the ship, and then and not all the Guardians go, because like James Gunn's brother, whoever his character's name is, Kraglin, and the dog Cosmo the dog,
who's a great character again from that Abnett and Lanning run.
Yeah, voiced by Maria Bakalova, who was like in the Borat 2 and stuff. Like, she's really funny.
Yes.
And
Good dog. Good dog.
The bad dog joke was really funny too. Like, you're a bad dog.
Don't really.
Like, no, don't say it. It's just like it was really
8 different scenes where like she brings
keep bringing it
back.
back.
She just can't get over it.
Yeah. And it doesn't get old. And like the people in my audience were like, no, don't tell her she's a bad dog. Like, people were really getting into it. They were really feeling for this.
You don't believe that. You don't believe I am bad dog.
Yeah, the fact that this dog would object to it. Yeah, it was funny. But also so they stay behind on Nowhere, and then as they're going, I think there was like flashbacks with because Rocket is unconscious, and then we see like how he was sort of created. Or like mutated, I guess, from a common raccoon or a baby raccoon.
So it starts to get sad, really sad.
Based upon, if you're fans of the show, you're also watching our sister shows, including Hold Up. And in Hold Up, it was mentioned in the Outer Sight review that one particular member of this panel absolutely dislikes flashbacks. So when I'm watching this movie, I'm just wondering to myself, is this person having an experience that they're enjoying because they don't like this format of
I'm glad you brought that up, Jaemeel.
Okay,
I had to. It wouldn't have been fair.
Wasn't me. I don't mind honestly, flashbacks.
That's why I faded out in the first act of this movie. And actually, I think I may have fell asleep twice. Again, I was really tired, but it was during the flashbacks both times. And yeah, that was my least favorite part of this movie, is because there were too many. Like, I would rather have just gotten that. I don't think it added a lot to the narrative to break it up. I could have just got all that Rocket backstory in one or at least 2 scenes. I don't think the spots where they dropped in the pieces of it necessarily had this narrative flow where they needed to be in that spot.
Yeah,
I figure it's the Mallrat, Mallrat conundrum, which is Mallrat Mallrats the movie originally had this sequence prior to the main storyline going on, kind of like a setting up situations. Ended up being like 30-40 minutes, and one of the notes that Kevin Smith got was, so it takes 30-40 minutes for the movie Mallrats to get to the mall. Right? We need to figure something out. We need to get to the mall as quickly as possible, because that's when the story picks up. So
right. That's what the movie is.
Yeah. Either it is the course of dropping it, or somehow it has to be incorporated another way through the storytelling method. And he dropped it and just changed things up. But It
And
is.
that's
It
why
is a
there are
question.
scenes in Mallrats that don't make sense.
Yes, and they
Yes.
When it's
do.
like my neighbor. It's like, what are you talking about?
There's a lot of like dubbing too. They have to dub out certain lines because there's this whole
Yeah.
original clip where it's like this the governor's ball and there's like machine guns or something.
It's awful.
It's
Like,
yeah.
as much as it's awful. Whoever that producer is, Kevin Smith owes them like a
Everything.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the
So,
movie
actually,
would be so different.
I got to respond to this call out a little more. So, Jaemeel, the difference between Out of Sight and this movie, though, is at least all of those flashbacks were like super interesting in this movie and like, hard to
Whoa.
watch. Again, they were very like, very difficult subject matter, but not Out of Sight. Out of Sight was just.
I would disagree, but moving on.
I liked that it was difficult subject matter, and I think that it gave a lot
Me
of
too.
like importance to the a lot of people are like, I can't see this animal cruelty. I'm like, I agree, it's very heinous, and I don't enjoy it seeing it, but it's like I think you need to sort of have that as part of the emotions and sort of how like this thing is going to play as a storyline, and like it really made the movie so much more heightened, yeah, and it felt like more personal, and like there was definitely like more like stronger emotions than like even those children. I didn't care about the children so much. I was like, those animals,
It's just the
like
animals.
Terrible person. You're a terrible person.
I'm just
Oh,
I'm
no,
just
the
like
children are just like
there's always
they're just
children
kind of thrown in at the end.
but
But
You're not a jib.
yeah. Anyway, I, like there was all these flashbacks, and they were like, and they were very like horrific with like all the different science experiment like characters, the otter and like the walrus and the bunny.
Not the otter.
Yeah, or whatever she was,
Lila.
Twyla.
It's Twyla.
Lila. She's
Lila.
from the comics. Like they're in the comics, they're from Half World, and she
Yeah.
was his girlfriend.
Yeah,
Rocket was like the cop on Half World.
Yeah.
Which was like Counter Earth, whereas it was populated by a bunch of anthropomorphic animals, but they weren't created by the High Evolutionary in the comics.
So
Man, it
do
wasn't
you want me to handle the flashback sequences?
yeah, whatever I've left out.
Okay, so
one of them breaks my heart completely in half, though.
Okay.
One of these flashbacks.
So we're introduced
to
Rocket, who was not known as Rocket at that time, as he was an animal in a cage with a bunch of other animals. I don't want to. That's a important plot point that comes later on.
He was subject 0847 or something.
CP, wasn't it CP or 89 CP? Yeah. And he's taken out of his cage, and he is evolved, and not necessarily evolved, but tinkered with. And he is shown a great deal of intelligence and intuitiveness, and he is introduced to a set of other animals, like Dave mentioned, Floor, Lila,
Chiefs.
Well, do you know who did the voice of Lila?
No.
Linda Cardellini from Dogma.
Oh wow.
Oh, what?
She was in Dogma.
The Last Scion, right?
Oh, really? That one?
Yeah.
Her? Wow.
I mean, from like Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, that's Linda Linda Cardellini from.
Am I mixing her
Wrong
up?
Person. Wrong person.
Wrong
Dave.
person.
Yes.
Damn it.
That's what I was like. Wait, she was in a Hollywood film again?
No.
Anyways,
this is the one who's married to somebody else. Okay, never mind.
So her second MCU role, because she plays what's it called again, the Clint's wife, who's also
she's Clint. She's Hawkeye's wife.
Yeah,
that's where I know her from. Okay.
Anyways, as we see in the flashbacks, the High Evolutionary is showcasing exactly what his issue is and taking Rocket along, and Rocket is able to point out a specific flaw in his evolver machine, because initially any animal that they evolved would have extreme bouts of aggression due to the process, and Rocket was able to determine by looking at the machine to immediately point out the flaw, which they were able to fix. And this issue always bothered the High Evolutionary, how he was trying to figure out exactly how Rocket was able to determine this information which he couldn't see and which others could not see as well. Right? What is so special about who we know as Rocket to be able to see that on his own? They
Yeah.
continue.
Well, my only question was about like the High Evolutionary himself, right? And I was like, how powerful is he? Because we see that he's able to sort of like throw around Adam Warlock very easily because he kind of created the Sovereign and whatever, and he's kind of like this crazy genetic scientist, mad scientist kind of character who's, I guess, been around all along, but no one else has ever run into him, and he has like all these like powers where he can control gravity and like crush people, but then at
So,
the same time he's losing to like Groot and
so before Davan jumps in and says in the comics, in terms of the story and what we're seeing,
yeah, what we see in this movie,
yeah,
like
in
I'm
the
talking about,
movie, the High Evolutionary is a normal being, not a human, mind you, because he references going to Earth and experiencing as like an outsider the art, entertainment, and the architecture that is introduced, but the population, the personality of humans, is something that could have been improved upon. He is a very intelligent individual who spent a lot of his time working on developing and evolving species and creating his own species. But soon after, he started to, and I believe it's after the Rocket event, right when Rocket escapes, is when he turned his work inward to improve himself. Because once he fixed his face, he also improved his abilities, telekinesis, from what I understand. I don't think it is just gravity, it's actually telekinesis.
okay, and so he's mortal. He's not like any kind of celestial or anything, is he,
No,
Davin? Or what is he?
Well, in the comics, um,
gotta put the
well,
Yes,
he's a regular guy. He's a human named Herbert Wyndham
he's a
yes,
in the
human,
comics. Yeah,
Wendigore.
but in this he's not a human. He's some
yeah.
kind of
From
alien, right? Like in this movie.
it would have, yes, because he says he visited Earth once.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah, he
says
doesn't
he
say like
likes
I
the
came home to
music and
Earth
art
once,
and stuff.
and
No, but
so
I think they should have made him a human since he made a counter Earth, and it would have made more sense. I think that was one of the weaker story points in the movie, the fact that he's an alien, but he just decided to copy Earth and its animals just because he liked its music. It's just like, it's a bit of a stretch. I'd rather him have just been
Put
a
more of a
human, which he was in
reason
the
why he
comics.
was drawn to Earth.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
maybe Yondu captured him when he was younger as well, and when he returned home from being so far, like they could have.
they could give him more of a backstory and get, but they don't give us really that. He's just this bad guy who tortured Rocket, and that's kind of the earliest versions we're seeing. And he was doing all kinds of experiments before that. But yeah, like
So,
so
so
yeah.
On the
to
comics.
answer your question about how powerful he is, it's just like, well, in the comics, like he's gone toe to toe with Apocalypse, like just fist to fist and stuff. Like, so he's super, super
Yeah.
like S tier, as they say, powerful.
Right.
Yeah, like he can handle the Guardians by himself.
Yeah.
There's no problem.
He's like Doctor
Yeah.
Doom level powerful.
Yeah,
Yes.
Doctor Doom's a good comparison, but with less magic and more just extreme evolutionary science.
Yes.
Right.
One of my first comic memories of the High Evolutionary was during the Clone Saga. They kind of woven him in a little bit, and Peter takes a swing at him, and he does not like move. Peter like cradles his fist because it did nothing to him whatsoever.
Right.
Right? This shot did nothing to him. So.
But in this movie, they don't even make him that powerful. He's more of just a guy, some kind of another alien. He is powerful, but he's not immortal, or he's not like, he doesn't seem like he's omnipotent or anything.
Bit of a
he's
downgrade.
but they don't, it doesn't really matter that he's not like this imposing threat as much, because he's so much more evil and despicable.
But I will say seems to have like an insane amount of tech resources. Like at the end of this movie, when like he destroys Counter Earth, he already says we'll just go to like the new colony. He already has another Counter Earth waiting.
Right.
Like, so he just has like insane amount of scientific resources.
Yeah, he seems pretty
Which
resourceful.
yeah,
And you know, and
he
whatever. And
hangs out
so,
in the Savage Land and Wondercore Mountain in the comics. But before we move on from those flashbacks, one of these scenes I think, as far as our uh, memorable Marvel moments.
Mm.
yes.
I find it interesting that you guys mentioned that it's taking time to digest this movie, and I agree. But what I find is it's just sticking with me. Scenes and stuff keep popping into my mind. I found it was a very powerful movie, and one of those Marvel moments for me was when Rocket comes back and he's still a little raccoon, and he's got like the metal because they just did brain surgery on him. He's got like the metal plate on his head, and Lila's talking to him, and it's his first word. He's just like realizing he's like terrified. Like the fear they show in this little raccoon is just heartbreaking. And because I've seen the little scared raccoons, I mean, you just startle them on your deck and they act like that. So they like to they like to cry you a river a little bit, baby raccoons. But um, he says he figures out he can speak, and his very first word is hurt, and it's the most heartbreaking little. It sounds just like my daughter. She says that, like when she's like has like an earache or something, she just goes hurt. And it sounded exactly like Rocket. Man, I started crying in theater. I don't think I stopped crying for the rest of the movie. It was
So
just like I think it was because it's late.
Yours was one long, consistent cry, as opposed
Yeah,
to
man, I didn't even know if it was because it was late. I kept going like, why are my eyes still watering? Is it the movie or it's because I'm late? Like I don't know.
Maybe
But
Dave.
both.
How many times you
there's
cried?
a lot of waterworks.
I don't think I cried this movie.
Heartless.
Not heartless. The
Heartless.
movie was emotional, but I wasn't crying per se. It was. I thought that it had some good highs and lows, and it was kind of. I was really there, and I was present, and I felt bad for a lot of the characters and creatures in this movie and different things, but I wasn't compelled to tears. Not sure why. I think I was having a good time in this movie. More than
I had a good
anything.
time too, but
It was a
it
good
got
time.
me 3 times.
Yeah.
Devin, I understand what you were saying, but it wasn't that. It was when he talked about leaving, right, with his friends, right, and going into the sky forever. That just like
that part too.
oof.
Yeah.
And you kind of that it didn't work out, right? Because you see where Rocket is now, and you've seen the history. It's like never mention them. Something happened, right?
And he's so sad and like grief stricken. He's just like, I'm sorry, I got you all killed. I'm so sorry. And she's just like, oh, it's all good, man. The sky's blue up here, and we're chilling.
Right. She's at their peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I guess the next part of the movie, like after like not covering the flashbacks, all like sort of we've kind of talked about a lot of that with Rocket and everything. I guess is Gamora comes into the story, as they're trying to find Ogre Corp or whatever it's called, and the High Evolutionary Orgocorp, and so they end up with the Ravagers, who Gamora is now joined. She's a Ravager, and she's like the Gamora from that alternate timeline with Thanos, and so she doesn't remember the Guardians movies, and she really
never
did
experience it. Not that,
yeah, she would have if she hadn't been pulled out of that timeline.
Yeah, I didn't like the fact that they kept on saying you don't remember. It's like, of course she doesn't remember. She never experienced it.
Yeah, she couldn't remember because it wasn't her. But it would, but
that was annoying.
So she's not into Peter Quill, who's like, oh my god, she calls him Quinn or whatever. Like, there's some funny stuff, and and Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, I forgot he was in these movies. As this Ravager character.
Sylvester Stallone. You also, you got who else? Michael Rosenbaum makes another appearance as well.
That's Martinex.
And
he was in. Yeah, I was like, hey, Michael Rosenbaum's in this movie.
Michelle Yeoh, I think, made another appearance as well.
Michelle Yeoh, who's also already in another she was in Shang-Chi, right? And the 10 Rings and all that. So they get her, and then there's that whole scene where they're in the colored spacesuits that you see in the trailer, where they're kind of going into Orgocorp with Gamora, and the whole thing with like the colors, and like yellow is red, red is green, and whatever. Like that was all hilarious.
I will say they redeemed Drax in this movie. I was really down on Drax in his sort of portrayal of Drax in general. It was getting old, especially in the Christmas special.
Yeah,
But I
you didn't
like
like
that
him
they
in
sort of
that
address
at
that.
all.
No,
But
they
yeah,
address that in this. Like he starts calling people out on them just thinking he's stupid and him being the stupid joke all the time.
right.
And they like kind of develop his character a bit. And there's
Or
that sort of
as
redemption for
better
him.
explain his character. Which, if you go
Hmm.
back to the beginning, you don't see this dumb warrior, right? You see this grief-stricken father who's lost his father
Yeah,
and his daughter,
His
right?
wife.
his wife and daughter.
Yeah, his wife and daughter.
Yeah.
Moondragon in the comics, Kamaria in the movie.
Yeah, and like I thought that the whole stuff where they had to infiltrate Orgo Corp, that was funny with Nathan Fillion's there. He's wearing that ridiculous like
He was great.
suit, and like yeah, I've got an idiot guy too, and like that stuff was funny.
Yeah.
And,
The state he looks back at the dude, it's just like
yeah,
real long stare too. Just
yeah. Yeah. So like how they it was working. This adventure was working for me as they were like also doing their quips and their jokes and stuff.
A little too long.
It was and then they split up at one point and they have to like get the information to help Rocket, and I think and then they take this woman hostage for a while, and Gamora is being all ruthless like Ravager, and Chris Pratt's Star-Lord's just like, you came back a dick and you're all you shouldn't be pointing guns and trying to kill people, we were better than this, and she's like, I wasn't in your stupid group, and I don't so there's a lot of like that kind of going on.
Well, they also point out like they kind of redeem Quill in terms of they address the end game, him losing his temper, they also, he's been portrayed somewhat, especially in game, as like a buffoon, whereas and even this one, Gamora kind of feels that he's a buffoon, where he's trying to use his seduction skills to get what he wants, and then it later plays off when it does work. It's like, no, I wasn't gonna, talk to them to try to convince them with my heart. I'm not dumb. And he does that to trick them. It's not, there is a plan in head. He isn't a complete idiot, right? He might do things that might be foolish, but he isn't an idiot. Very different.
Yes. Yeah, and so they get out of that place eventually. But like Drax gets shot in the chest, and they fight their way out. I can't remember exactly all the details of it. And then
Nebula gets messed up a bunch of times in this movie, but luckily she can put herself back together each time.
Yeah,
thanks to Rocket.
Thanks to
She
Rocket.
just her head just gets bent completely over backwards.
Her neck
That
gets
was
like
great.
snapped around and whatever.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember what happens after that. I think it's more stuff with the High Evolutionary, maybe. They go, is that where they go to like the planet with all the counter Earth with all the animal people?
They realize that the information isn't there, and that they have to go and find the High Evolutionary, right? So you go to Counter Earth, right, and you can continue.
They go to Counter Earth, and that's like the scene we see in some of the trailers where like they land there and it looks like people, but then it looks like they're landing on Earth, but it's actually like this planet of like it's like some people are buddies and like different animals. And we like after seeing like the flashbacks with Rocket, you have context for what this planet is, and why are they all different animals and they're all like different species? Isn't that kind of weird? But it kind of does make sense within with that you have more of this context filled in. And so yeah, like you see the scene where Drax throws like the ball at the kid's face, and then they attack them, and then
it all goes wrong from there.
yeah, I guess they had their own language, these aliens or these like creations of the High Evolutionary. And so they end up with this like one particular couple, like this one woman that was on the street who they can't really talk to. Like they're just like, hello. And like they're kind of talking just like, like especially like Star-Lord at her. And then, eventually she like they come in the house and like Drax keeps laying on the couch and not like he's like, well, why wouldn't I lay on it if it's meant to be laid out? You're like, no, you're supposed to sit on it shoulder to shoulder. There was like some of those jokes were sticking with me. I think that was funny.
Devin, what's your opinion on a couch?
What? In what terms?
are you to sit shoulder to shoulder, or is it something that you can lay on? Was Drax right?
Oh man, you lay on a couch. You always lay on a couch.
There you go. So
Well, not
Star-Lord
me.
was
Well,
not
when you're
you.
the guest in the first few minutes, I think you have to like at least have been over
Oh no.
for at least an
Well,
hour.
I mean, you maybe not put your feet up right away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put the timer on an hour.
Yeah. After
Well, it
you've been
depends
like,
on the couch. Like if you're showing up at somebody's cabin or cottage or something, and there's a dusty old couch, just you can hop right up on that thing, put your feet up, kick the dust off it.
yeah.
You know,
I think like if it's a new
context is
house,
everything.
depends how well I know these people or where I'm going with the couch. I think that Drax.
Was Drax right, Dave?
No,
Should
I don't
he
think he
have
was
waited?
right, but he had a point, maybe. So if that makes any sense. So they give them the car, I think, and then they so like Peter and
Nebula
Nebula go off
and
on
Groot.
and Groot,
Yeah.
and then I guess Mantis and Drax go another way.
No, Mantis and Drax are supposed to stay and guard Rocket, right? Gamora does not want to go.
Gamora doesn't want to even be any part of this. She wants to get out, but they're like they don't have time to take her back to the Ravagers, and so she's
Yeah.
kind of like, and we see that she kind of called Adam Warlock or in the Sovereign.
She tries to contact her ship, but the communicator was stolen by one of the by the Sovereign, so they were able to piggyback the information, and when they were communicating, got the location of where Counter X was, so Warlock was heading there in the ship with the Sovereign.
Okay. Yes. Well said. So all that
It's an
happened.
interesting backstory we get on the Sovereign there too, that they were created by the High Evolutionary.
Yeah, I was fine with that. That made it more like made some things make more sense, I guess, and like and why they are the way they are and whatever. And why this High Evolutionary would have more power just beyond what we kind of see here, because he's kind of created entire races. So he's a god to a lot of different people. So I thought that was interesting. And so there's a lot of action there on the planet, and then they get into
As he would say, there are no gods, and that's why he stepped up.
That is kind of what he says. We also see like these other creatures you create, like War Pig and this other
War
thing.
Pig, yeah.
Like it looked like
gathered in his masses.
Bebop and Rocksteady kind of looking, kind of like cybernetic creatures,
Kind of remind me of the cybernetic humans from Judge Dredd, the bad one.
Yeah, were they cannibals too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easily the goriest Marvel movie too. Like they slaughter people left and right
yeah.
in this movie.
Yeah, because after the trailer's like, no, we're not gonna kill anybody, or like Drax said, like kill one stupid guy with no friends and nobody likes him or whatever.
It's like that's so harsh.
Yeah, so
you're just making it sad.
Yeah, and then we see like they eventually do start killing all of like the High Evolutionaries, like lackeys and whatever. And so yeah,
They
like,
massacre them. They don't just like kill them. They like slaughter them.
Brutal.
now, like I think Star-Lord says to
brutal.
Groot, like now we kill everybody or something, right?
Yeah,
And they
he
do.
does. He says, "Kill them all." It's like what?
Yeah. What is this movie? Yeah,
man, it's a crazy movie. What a way to go.
Yeah, so they're on the thing, and like there's a lot of the High Evolutionary monologuing at Star-Lord and the rest of them, and we find out he's going to destroy this world because they're dealing meth or something. We see it's not the perfect society like he had meant it to create. Like it was something.
All of Earth's problems just started showing up. Like he
Yeah.
didn't improve upon anything. He just made them animal people.
Yeah, he just made them like humans. That's all.
They're intelligent, but they aren't able to create solutions. They can just seemingly repeat.
Not
what is done in the
evolved.
past. Yeah, not evolved.
He didn't evolve them. Yeah, and evolution is a big theme in this. Like, but they're like later on, they're like grab all the higher life forms and how that ends up playing out and stuff. So, very interesting theme. Like,
Yeah,
it's a good movie.
Like there's a lot of action after this point, and I think like Nebula and Drax, like they have to get onto the ship to save. Okay, help me out here.
I'll help you out here. Okay, so Nebula could not go into the pyramid and where the High Evolutionary was located. Peter and Groot go up, and Nebula is staying there in the front. At the same time, Drax and Mantis get in a little some tomfoolery and decide to disregard what Peter said and go and meet him. So they leave, and then Warpig comes and attacks a Gamora at the same time as Adam Warlock. Or Warlock kills Warpig, and
Right.
but Warpig does indicate to High Evolutionary that they got him. So High Evolutionary is like, okay, we got him, so we can move on from this Earth, and he decides to evacuate the counter Earth, which starts off a chain reaction, which basically destroys the entire planet. So Drax and Mantis meet up with Nebula. They, feeling that they have to rescue Peter, jump aboard the High Evolutionary ship. At the same time that they capture the gentleman who stole the codes, or took the codes before they were able to get it from Orgacorp. They heist him out of the building, right, and propel off of the the High Evolutionary ship, propelled straight to Earth as it's counter Earth as it explode. At the same time, Nebula finally gets control of the ship and is racing to be safe, as well as trying to find Peter, who she does recognize that is on the planet. Adam Warlock tries to get to the Sovereign as the ship's blowing up to warn her. Unfortunately, he doesn't make it in time. She dies, and he is also blown to smithereens, and is severely hurt, but is at least picked up by Gamora. Gamora is able to save Peter, and Peter finds out
this guy here.
That
Yes.
weird little thing that like
That's
Adam
awesome.
Warlock attaches himself to in this, because he's like a baby. He's like a grown-up baby Superman, basically, with like laser fingers.
Laser fingers. So we just have like hijinks in terms of people are mixed up in where they are and everything like that. So,
But you missed it. It was, my favorite scenes and all of that was where Gamora gets all mad at Drax, and then like Mantis has to stick up for Drax and says, "Yes, I know he's dumb, and he's like he always says the wrong thing, but whatever."
You think I'm an idiot? It's like,
Yeah.
of course I do.
Of course, he's like, I don't know if I care for this defense, and then he's
Forgets.
like, yeah, she makes him,
forgets.
she like neuralizes him basically.
Which
But it's more, but it's all about Gamora. It's not about Drax. It's about Gamora being like just mean to people and only caring about intelligence, and
at the same time, it is an important thing that references back to something that Drax also said in Volume 2, and we'll talk about that later on when we're talking about different themes and callbacks.
It felt more like family, like that felt like a fight a family would have, and like so that's what like I like these kinds of like these scenes that he has in the movie where like they're in transition of something, and it's less about like we have to just save Rocket right now. It's like the conflict we have between these characters.
It's real people dealing with the situation, plus all the baggage that they also have. The baggage doesn't disappear when they have to save someone or do something. They carry it with them, and it leaks out and expresses, and sometimes things need to be said. It isn't like, I'm Superman all of a sudden and I just saved the day, everything else doesn't exist, I'm just gonna punch people and then pose, and that's it, that's the end of the story. That's not the case. That's really what makes great superheroes great. It's the humanity, right? It isn't just I'm gonna punch you as hard and then get hit, and then we're just gonna do that in the middle of the street.
Right.
Anyways, continue.
I'm trying to remember what else has. I know like they show like the Kraglin and Cosmo show up with Nowhere, and then they start evacuating like the high
that's cool.
ships. And there's kind of like the
Nowhere
final
shows up
battle and stuff, and like them saving the kids and the various animals and kids and animals.
Okay,
and,
I'll jump in there.
Okay.
So
all right, all yours.
Rocket says to go save the higher life forms, which means like the kids, basically. in whatever people they
Well,
decide they
they,
want to
they
take.
get the code. Okay, they get the code from the assistant. They're able to save Rocket. Right, Rocket has before he comes back, he has a flashback and he gets some closure with Lila and company. Right, and is told that it's not time for him to die yet. He gets up. They find out that Nebula and company are on the high evolutionary ship, and
What is he doing?
we're talking about afterlife stuff and Dave.
Yeah, afterlife stuff.
Oh, okay.
Look, it has a logo. Stop with the logos.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Keep going,
There
Jaemeel.
they are.
No,
There they
this
are.
is absolutely distracting.
Okay,
Anyways,
all
There's
right.
Chiefs.
yes. So, as Rocket's up, they realize the High Evolutionary has blah blah blah. They try communicating with Nebula, and then the High Evolutionary, basically tells him, to come meet him, making another trap, which Quill points out it isn't a trap. When you know it's a trap,
Face off.
it's a face off. So Peter also instructs Kraglin and Cosmo to use Nowhere to help them save the day. Davin, you can continue.
Yeah, it's like there's no difference between a face off and a trap if like you're gonna get killed when you get there because he has such more force than you. He's like,
Yeah.
no,
It's like, no,
don't
I'll
worry
kill
about
you
it.
when I get there. Is his point.
Yeah,
He
exactly. No,
knows
if I
to do
see
that.
you first.
Yeah. You think I'm walking into a trap? I'm walking into it to kill you, and so therefore it's a face-off.
Yeah. Pretty great.
I know it's a
Quill on
trap.
there.
It kind of makes sense when you sort of think about it. But
So yeah, and then they're getting the higher life forms off, and Cosmo's holding Nowhere up against high evolutionary ship. Like they
right.
kind of
and Rocket
they
got
kind of
like
flew it into Nowhere's bay, sort of.
Rocket got
Yeah.
cured or he got like healed
Yeah.
up, and he nearly dies, but he doesn't, and
Mhm.
then he's done running, and then they have is that like the whole hallway scene I think comes after this point, where like they have to like where they have to as a team go down the hall and like fight all these whatevers. I think right after this, right? Because and
What
Gamora
happens-
doesn't want to go.
Yeah, so they're talking about leaving, and then Rocket's like, "No, we're not done yet." And then Rocket decides to like face them directly, and then you can just see everyone kind of like turn and like go with him. You really see Rocket lead. This is the point where he, like, I feel takes over as leader, right? And
Or just passed.
Well, they even say that. Like James Gunn always said, like this whole thing was a Rocket story, not a Peter Quill story, and it just never seemed like it until now. And they even say that in the movie. They're like, actually, this is your story. They say to Rocket.
Mhm.
I forget who says that to him, but yeah.
Right. And this is like a CGI character, but they did a really awesome job.
But he's
with
so
this.
good, man. He's my favorite character in this trilogy.
Yeah. He seems so real. Like he doesn't just seem like
Yeah.
a CGI raccoon, which I know that's what he is. But and like Bradley Cooper, to his credit, did really well with this this particular character right from the start.
There ain't
It
no
doesn't
me
sound like
except
Bradley
me.
Cooper to me.
No.
Bradley
just-
Cooper has a more lucrative career as a voice actor, in my opinion.
Well, what's his
Could
other
be.
voice work like that he's known for?
Probably something in Hop or something. I don't know.
So then Rocket goes into a room and he sees a bunch of little baby raccoons. It reminds him of his own youth as a enslaved baby raccoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he changes his mind and he sees that they have intelligence. And he looks around, he sees kangaroos and all these other animals, and they're all looking at him. They all want his help, but they're afraid of him too. And that's when he decides to save all the animals as well. And I would argue save all the plants if you can. If there's some nice plants, save the plants.
He was doing experiments on plants too.
He might have been.
No, well, I don't think he saw that they had higher intelligence. I think he
Well,
he
they had
realized
value.
Value.
They have value. That's
Yeah.
He
That's
got
what
a connection. He found a connection there, yeah. And like, there's and then it says he is a raccoon on the cage.
Yeah, that's the theme of this whole movie is that value isn't based on intelligence. It's just, life is life.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so then there's the final showdown, I think, with the High Evolutionary and him, and like they, rip
Face
him
off.
Face Off. You know, they
Face
rip his
Off, yeah.
face off and all that.
No traps here.
Yeah.
Again, gruesome. I was see, Jaemeel, since you're like more familiar with the comics, were you expecting the high evolutionary helmet face when they
Yes.
start pulling off?
Yes.
I was like, oh, we're gonna see these gonna be like a robot face under there. This is gonna be great. And it's like, no. It's just
No, it was
gruesome.
better.
Like Red Skull. It looked like Red Skull or something like.
It looked like a really gross Red
Like
Skull. Yeah.
Toxie though. He looked kind of like Toxie too.
Oh, yeah, like the Toxie nose. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look like the cover of the Phantom of the Opera, but the one with like Robert Englund in
Yeah.
like the 1980s. There's like you know, just like just a man with no skin, you know, basically.
He didn't look like a robot. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
No, it was like, and then like I thought like the performance was excellent by as I said before by this actor.
He's
You
so
know,
good.
yeah,
If they're gonna fire Kang, just replace him with the High Evolutionary.
Yeah, like does High Evolutionary die in this movie? I can't really remember. I guess he does, right? Like
No.
Look,
No.
look. Unless
he doesn't
make it
die
a
that
rule.
easily.
Make it a rule. If you do not see the person actually die, they're not dead, right?
Okay. Even if he like went down in a flaming ship.
Doesn't matter.
That's not enough. Not enough.
Was
You have to see the dead body afterwards, or they're not
Yeah.
dead.
and even then, even then,
Yeah, even then.
Even then,
If they're X-Men,
right?
it doesn't mean anything.
It won't mean anything. Yeah, and like what else? I think that they get back, and then the team is that when the team kind of breaks up because they kind of go their separate ways after like they defeat the High Evolutionary and they get everyone back onto nowhere and
well, okay, so you have all the life that was all the life that was taken from the High Evolutionary ship, plus some of the workers as well, because the workers also evacuated as well, plus all the residents of nowhere. So they had to figure out exactly what they're gonna do. So Nebula has become in charge of nowhere with Drax as well, to
Take
look
care of the
over
kids.
take care of the kids. Mantis, who has been forever following, whether it be Ego, and then the Guardians, has decided to go out on her own and kind of explore herself, learn herself, learn who she is.
Giant octopus, squid, eel monsters.
The battery-loving monsters.
yeah. She was
Yes.
taming them in the movie. They were back from part 2 or whatever.
Yes, a lot of callbacks. Part 2. Peter, who was reminded repeatedly throughout the movie how he was wanting to have Nebula back, Gamora back, but at the same time he left his grandfather back on Earth and never once went back to see him.
So cold.
Right? So he was going to go and check up on him. Gamora, they had a great scene with Gamora and Peter coming to grips that it isn't his Gamora, but at the same time appreciates the person in general that she is, regardless of their connection or their lack of connection as much as before. And Gamora also appreciating Peter as a person, but one that she does not love. And we do see that Peter was wrong in terms of Gamora being this new Gamora being this heartless person. She has found a family. Her family is the Ravengers, right? And you see that moment of like closeness that the Gamora that we are used to, that he's used to, had with the Guardians. So she also has a happy ending.
For her.
It was a great ending for that character. That was fair and honest. Anything else would have been cheap. If she ended up with Peter, cheap. If she ended up with the Guardians, cheap. Just a backtrack, like a backtrack, right?
This was like the most satisfying ending for her.
I felt for that character, Gamora that we know and loved. She died in Infinity War. Right.
Yeah, but if she just ended up here with Peter, it would make that death cheaper and not meaningful, and so you have to do this almost with the character in order to not ruin that, I think, and what was already.
She would have hooked up with her sister, her twin sister.
Yeah, it's kind of it's whatever. So
I actually prefer this Gamora because she acts more like comic book Gamora. I didn't really like the Gamora in the last 2 movies as much. She was too soft to be Gamora.
Soft,
like.
She was
soft
like
for
more
Gamora.
of a good guy.
Gamora's
more of a
hard, man.
face.
Gamora is.
And she was, I guess, this version of Gamora is, I guess, yeah, you're right, closer to her
More like
comic book
that.
character, a little more ruthless.
But it also leaves the door open that if they have to come together again, you do have that dynamic of like the Gamora from the comic books, right, coming back and being a part of the Guardians if necessary, right? So you do have that ability to get a more comic accurate situation or storyline with that character.
And Mantis had a great scene there too, though, when she was jumping on everybody and making them all do different kind of weird, silly things, and then she finally jumps on somebody and goes violent rage, and just to like make that person start shooting everybody.
When she made
else.
that one guy dance or whatever, and
Yeah.
like, it was just
Like
they're all
dance,
happy.
stand on one foot, violent rage. It's like,
Yeah, she's probably my favorite character, maybe in the movie is Mantis. She's always hilarious. I thought that like everything like with the ending, with the post credit scenes or the mid credit scenes was setting up a new generation, I guess, or a new version of the Guardians team, and was good. And
well, there you go. But in the comics, I knew it was coming.
So this team, I'm excited about this new team. So this was more closer to the team of the Abnett and Lanning run, which was Rocket and Groot. Warlock was on the team. Phyla Vel, which we have here. I didn't realize that little girl was going to be Phyla. I should have guessed because of the white hair. She's Kree in the comics, so they're just going to get rid of that. But that's fine. They've been like swapping alien races around like crazy.
Yeah.
Same with High Evolutionary, whatever.
Right.
But Phyla Vel's a great character. She is a couple with Drax's daughter in the comics, Moondragon.
Yep.
Moondragon and Phyla, one of the power couples of Marvel Comics, and so that's and generally the Guardians of the Galaxy are a little more powerful than this kind of team was. Like they have, Drax is kind of powerful and Groot can do a lot of stuff, but like they usually do have kind of cosmic world beaters on their team, like a Warlock and a Phyla Vel. So this is getting closer to the
it's a bit more of a formidable team in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they deal with a lot of cosmic threats.
Right. And so it was also in the post credit scenes. Like I know I didn't stay around for the Peter talks to his grandfather. Apparently that came at the end. I had to go to Max's birthday.
Wait, hold on a second. Why did you leave?
I had Max's birthday. I had to go. So it was
Max couldn't wait.
No, he couldn't.
Man.
I already had missed the surprise part of the party, so I was like, okay, well, I'll find out what happened later. So what did I miss, guys? Tell me what I missed. I had the mid credit. I stayed for the mid credit. I didn't stay for the final credit.
No, bro, you gotta.
Well, the final credit scene wasn't the best, actually. It was just the eating the cereal
and the
funny joke.
Star-Lord will return.
Star-Lord,
Yeah,
so Star-Lord's
the legendary Star Wars.
The legendary. Is he gonna get his own movie? You think?
No. It's just like it'll be a show, likely.
Oh, really? I don't think so. I think he's just gonna appear in another movie.
Maybe he'll join the Avengers.
The way the way they did the logo, the legendary Star-Lord, that's the exact same logo as his solo comic run. So that suggests to me a TV show.
I don't want a TV show with this man.
Why not? Oh, you don't want his crazy like adventures through space? See, that's better for me for a Guardians. I'm kind of liking these TV shows because like a lot of these, like the Abnett and Lanning run is like a lot of issues. It's like 50 issues, and it's like I like these adventures.
I don't think they're gonna do that where he's gonna go into space.
Well, could he get mixed up with whatever Nick Fury's up to with the space stuff?
Secret Invasion?
No, not Secret Invasion. That would be pointless.
No,
because no one would know him enough to say that he's.
But he knows space stuff.
Yeah, does he? I mean, yeah, he does. But anyway, the joke at the end is just that whole thing about like mowing another man's grass. He's just like they want him to help out by mowing the lawn. He's like, look, I'll do it, but he's a 45-year-old man, and something weird about mowing another man's grass. What's he just going to be sitting there watching me while I mow his grass? Like, what's going on here?
Was the joke I missed?
Yeah,
that was the joke.
It was pretty funny.
And the old man's just like, don't get me started. And Star's like, well, now I kind of want to know.
I think it would make more sense that he's involved with the Eternals than anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm curious to see what they do with that character by himself, in the next project, and when that's going to happen, if that's down the line or sooner than later.
Because
So
I don't
Well,
really
it's like
care
the-
about him being involved with Kang. I don't care about him being a part of the Avengers or anything like that. Like, oh no, Shang-Chi and Star-Lord, meet.
that could
I
be
don't
fun.
care about that.
Maybe
Why?
Aquafina and Star-Lord. How about that?
No. I think the Eternals would need that kind
It'd be a
of.
good couple.
Maybe.
I think the Eternals would be more of an interesting situation overall.
Anything to make the. I don't think they're gonna do another Eternals movie.
Oh,
The
they
Eternals
definitely are,
couldn't
but-
handle that funny of a character
we'll
coming
see.
into their movie.
No, I think it's
Uh,
the perfect way to do a second Eternals, because you have Star-Lord there as the chaser.
Well, they have Star Fox now.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, do you want to rate this movie?
Fringe, he said.
Should we rate this?
Yeah, why don't we?
Okay. Let me bring this up. We'll figure out
this
what do you want?
recap has made me has put a lot of things into focus for me.
Where's the spreadsheet here? Hold on.
That answers the what next, the whole thing about the legendary Star-Lord. Like, we won't see the Guardians as a team for a while. They may come back with a new lineup in like 10 years. Who knows? They're just going to be off doing their space stuff. Maybe we'll get drop cameos, but I don't think we'll see a Guardians of the Galaxy movie for quite some time.
Which is good.
Yeah, I agree. It's just going to be Star-Lord popping up in
I
things.
don't want to look at the ratings.
And his solo comics never really grabbed me. It gets into his father as like one of the Spartaks and all that stuff, and it didn't really grab me.
All right, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. In terms of what I think this should get, I think it's pretty good. I'm willing to go into at least the 9s. So
Mhm.
I'm going to go with a rating of 9.2. Jaemeel.
Oh. I would say I would give it a 9.5.
9.5 from
Same.
Jaemeel. 9.5 from Davan. Averaging a 9.4. Between
It would have
two
been
of
a 10 if it wasn't for all the flashbacks.
us.
I
Okay.
love it.
Fair enough. And it was, I think, I don't think it needed to be 2.5 hours. I think they could have made it 2 hours.
It didn't
So I
feel
think-
like it was 2.5 hours.
I think they could have cut at least
Didn't to me
15
either.
15 minutes out of the movie. I think that's why it's a not perfect movie for me, but otherwise I thought it was really good, so maybe less flashbacks, maybe less something, I don't know, like maybe,
This thing since Werewolf by Night, according to the Mary Mater Marvel Society.
of course, according to us, yes.
Mhm.
Best thing in a while, actually, was since
in
Werewolf
a
by Night.
while.
I liked Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special a lot more than you guys did, so it was
Once again, it felt out of place, but it makes more sense now that you have Volume 3.
right. So it's it's a companion piece to Volume 3. It is a setup, but it's get-
They should be putting it with the Volume 3 DVD and Blu-ray. Honestly,
it's
They should forget about it. They forget they ever made it.
I disagree.
this is a high up there. This will hold up as one of our higher rated things.
It was
And
great.
She-Hulk.
It's one of the best Marvel movies, I think.
She-Hulk.
I flirted with giving it a 10.
I didn't. I know.
What's next, guys? What's next
Like-
in the Mary Mater Marvel Society?
Secret Invasion?
Secret Invasions is a movie or a show?
Show?
Show in June. Starting in June.
Show.
It'll only
okay.
be like 6 episodes. It's not going to be very long.
Yeah.
And
I
this
think
Secret
it's
Invasion,
6.
then Loki, then the Marvels.
I'm excited for Loki.
I'm looking forward to the Marvels. That trailer was good.
The
Yep.
Marvels, yeah, like that looks good. Like it makes sense for them to get all those characters together, I guess, now and after they've all been set up, right? So the timing of this makes sense. I think that the first Captain Marvel movie I was kind of like fine with, and like I think that this actually is maybe more interesting. So I'm looking forward to it because I like the show, the Kamala.
Sound like a question.
I like the show with Kamala Khan, kind of, but I also feel like I'm way too old for it. I feel like it's for Zoomers and younger. Like it's not really
Zoomers.
directed for me. So I feel like I'm like, oh man, I'm old. Like I'm not. This isn't my
I
show.
loved it. I loved Miss Marvel, and I'm the elder statesman here in our house.
Well, there you
Dave.
go. I'm a year older than you though, so maybe that's why.
How do you measure age?
In years?
Oh, I do it in beard length,
So I'm the youngest, I
as
guess.
is of course tradition.
Right, as is tradition.
Some cleanup. Let's do some cleanup. So, as I was mentioning, there's a lot of callbacks that we saw.
Yeah.
One of the most important callbacks that we saw was the oh, it's all connected. I love it. I love it. Was the quote from Drax about there's two types of people in the world: those who dance and those who do not.
Right.
Right, and that was something that where Drax felt dancers were pathetic, right, and to see the
Well,
the
there's
letting-
more.
And then he
there.
does dance. Yeah. At the
no, not go ahead, Davin. Go ahead.
Well, he I believe he says in the first movie something. His wife used to dance.
His wife
And
was a
now
dancer.
Yes, and he hates dancing since she died. Now that she's
Yes.
dead, now he hates dancing.
Yes,
Right.
right. So for Drax, you see his character who is holding on to this hurt from his family being gone, his daughter being gone, his wife being gone, right? And this was the exhale for this character. Finally, was able to open up his heart completely, right, and let joy in. In addition, in Volume 2, you had Drax talk about calling Mantis ugly, right?
Right.
And I wanted to get the exact quote.
I got that for you. So he's just like, "Yes, you're terribly ugly," and she's just like, He's like, "You're horrible to look at." She's just like, "Oh," he's like, "But that's great because people who like you really like you for who you are." But that's where it's a callback to this new one because she's like, "You think I'm ugly?" He's like, "Of course." And where he goes, "You think I'm stupid?" And she goes, "Of course."
Yes.
So she's just reversing the line.
Yes. But
Of course, she erases his memory. This is kind of cheating.
But we as the viewers see the connection that the two have, that despite these things, they still care about them each other so deeply, right? That's why their separation was so impactful to me as well. I got very emotional with that too. So, those two.
She'll come back green if it's anything like the comics, and we see Mantis again. She started off like fleshy color, and then she becomes the celestial Madonna and goes off into space and comes back green.
Which would be
Yeah,
awesome.
I hope we see her again. She's one of the characters I like a lot in this franchise.
So the thing about being the celestial Madonna in the comics, you see, Mantis can't die. If you kill her, she'll just like show up in a cocoon on the nearest planet that has like plants, and then hatch out of it.
So her discovering herself should hopefully unlock that ability, so we can get once again a closer representation.
Well, give Mantis, doing more with her in the future, like outside of the Guardians, I think could be interesting.
Yep. We know that Rocket is the new leader because he is given the Zune to be in charge of.
Yeah, he's in charge of the playlist. Whoever's running the music.
Yes.
Which again makes sense because Rocket usually is the leader of the Guardians, not Star-Lord. Like this all makes a lot more sense.
Kraglin finally is able to learn to control the needle
arrow thing.
Yeah. What else?
I like when he finally gets it and he just like clinks it off that guy. He's just like, "Yeah, I finally got it." Just goes clink.
Who did that? And he just hides away.
Who threw that at me?
That was a great scene. And Warlock being a part of the team.
And the dog Cosmo was a good dog by the end.
Yes.
Good dog.
Good dog. Yes.
She's like, "Yeah, so the Russians just threw me up into space, but never planning on bringing me back."
And not once did they call me a bad dog.
Yeah,
And
no,
woods did it go? And like Howard the Duck was there at one point too.
Yeah, Howard the Duck.
Oh yeah, at the poker table. I was trying to see who else was at that poker table that was just quick and they looked kind of generic.
Yeah.
It looked like a bunch of Ravagers or something. Like,
Yeah, looked like a bunch of Raptors.
Yep. And that's it from me. I really like those moments. Really heartfelt. Yeah.
yeah,
of
good
heart
movie. Good movie. I think this was
I would like. Yeah, go ahead.
I just think it was back to form for the MCU. I think it was. I think James Gunn. All the epic. He was fired from this movie, then rehired, and like there was a huge story and just that. And now he's going off to DC to do all of that. And I think he's going to probably do well over there. Like I said, I really loved Peacemaker, what he did with that show, and so it's an end of an era here as like this Guardians kind of thing he did. This trilogy is over. So it's kind of, I think, nice.
Is this the best trilogy of the MCU?
I think you can only compare it to the Captain America trilogy, and I think it's better than the Captain
Iron
America
Man.
trilogy.
No, it's not
the
better
Iron
than
Man.
Captain
Iron
America
Man.
is still the best trilogy, I think.
I think that because the
This
first
one's
Captain
close though.
The first Captain America movie I don't really like that much, like the first Avenger.
I liked it a lot.
Shame on you.
I think that for me, as a trilogy goes, I think Guardians is stronger, but I really love like Civil War and Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier's still the best Marvel movie.
It's one of them. It's like it's up there for me too.
So
I like
good.
Civil War actually more than Winter Soldier, but
Wow.
that's just
It's like a movie, like even just with outside all the Marvel stuff too. Winter Soldier is just a really good movie. But
yes.
one thing I'd add to the what next. When I want to see the Guardians as a team return, it would be by the time Phyla is old enough to be dating Drax's daughter, who didn't die, and you get this return of the team, and it's Rocket and Groot and Phyla, who's older, and you get Moondragon, who's Drax's daughter, and Warlock. Oh, it's the team. That's the team.
Unfortunately, I think what you're gonna get is was Phyla and Love from Love and Thunder.
Phyla and Love.
Phyla
We'll
might
never
be
see
the one they
Love
throw in the
again.
Young Avengers.
We're gonna
I
see
could
Love
some.
again.
They're not gonna put Phyla in Love Young Avengers.
She's too powerful. You wouldn't even need the rest of that team.
And also that she has
You
no
need
connection
Arrow
to the
Girl.
Avengers.
Arrow Girl, Kate Bishop.
Arrow Girl.
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop. God, I just want give me a Yelena movie. Can I just have a two? Well, I guess we're getting one, Thunderbolts, but there's gonna be too many other characters in that. I just want Yelena.
Yeah. I really like Elena too. I think she was the best thing to come out of that Black Widow stuff that they did. So
Thank you for the girls' night.
yeah,
I really appreciate it.
yeah.
Relax, Kate Bishop. I just want to talk, okay?
When are they gonna make the Elena cookbook?
Where she's making
Mac and cheese
macaroni,
cooking.
Macaroni in the pot. I love it.
mac and cheese, craft dinner.
Oh, the only other thing before we wrap this up, the only other what next I would add is I want to see more High Evolutionary. This guy was
You want this
amazing.
villain to come
With
back?
the mask.
Oh,
With the mask.
yeah, with the mask, of course, because
Yes.
now he got no face again.
That's
the first thing
what
I thought too.
I was like,
When
oh,
they do that,
yes.
I'm like, yeah, now they have to bring him back with a real face covering because
Yeah.
the skin wasn't holding up. He needs something a little better than that.
Yeah.
he'll learn
'Cause
from his
again,
mistake.
Are you still? I'm curious to see what they do with Kang and in Loki. I guess in particular, but
The replace
Yeah,
him
we'll
with Terrence
find out.
Howard.
are they gonna replace? You think he'll get replaced?
That would be hilarious.
Yeah,
I mean,
Terrence
I don't
Howard
really
is
like
the
Terrence
new
Howard a
Kang.
lot as an actor.
That's a little bit of a spoiler because I made a video that I've been sitting on, which kind of shows Terrence Howard at the beginning of it, getting kicked out of the Iron Man 2, production meeting, and then gets fired, and then the reports about Kang, and then it's like the return of the replacement, So
That would be pretty funny. So what do we think? Do we think they're replacing Kang?
He got in
They
some
still have
hot
time.
water, right?
they still have time.
Like Jonathan Majors, because didn't he beat up his girlfriend or something? Or
Allegedly.
Well, yeah. Now just like everyone's just like, oh, he was always a psychopath. We just
Oh.
didn't say anything.
You think you might do a background check on these guys before you hire them to
Yeah,
play
you'd
these
think,
massive
Background
franchises?
people don't care about background checks because look, it's the court of public opinion for the most part, and as much as Amber Heard did a whole bunch of bad stuff, you know, Johnny Depp ain't without fault.
Right.
And the fact that from the aftermath of that, people are like, oh yeah, Johnny was right all along. And I'm like, no, I was paying attention during this thing, and there's a whole bunch of scummy stuff that he was involved in, but that's just completely being brushed aside, right? Because they only read the headline, they didn't read the body of the story. So
Yeah,
It's just
well,
a
I
bunch
mean,
of creepy
at the
rich
end of
people
the-
being creepy rich people, man. It's like I couldn't
Yeah.
find that story like less interesting.
so
It's like,
at
why
the
do I
end
have
of
to
the
keep
day,
seeing this shit?
at the end of the day, if the headline of Jonathan Major's situation is Jonathan Major is not guilty, right? They will continue
Oh,
on.
Agreed, they would.
They will continue. Ezra was able to continue
But
his
it's not
movie.
going to be that kind of a situation, a guilty, not guilty. It's just money's going to change hands, and is that going to be enough for them?
Well, it's the court of public opinion.
That's how
for the
these
state.
things really go. It's like money
Well,
changes hands.
Look,
and
if Flash makes $1 billion, then like, what standing does Marvel have to replace him?
why? Because they're like DC's keeping a pedophile on the payroll.
It's like, well, we're not that bad.
Yeah,
hey,
true. I mean, true. Okay.
credit for that.
Anyway, on that note,
Yes.
On that note, we'll be back in for Secret Invasion, I guess, and soon enough.
yep.
July, maybe we'll be covering that, and then we get the Marvels later this year.
Yep.
And
And,
what else?
Loki season 2.
Loki season 2. Yeah, so all that's fun, guys. I can't wait to get into that stuff,
Mhm.
especially the Loki, as I mentioned.
So how are we gonna do the show? Just like the whole series at the
Usually
end,
we
or
do
like-
it once we've watched all the whole show. Yeah, instead of like
Right on.
doing it every episode is
Too annoying.
too annoying. Yeah, to try to
Yeah.
do. I find like we do it for Picard and stuff like that, but
But we can do it for
I do
this.
it for a
we don't do it for this.
30-year-old cartoon.
Yeah.
So.
We do it- yeah, true. But that's
Dave likes to binge.
in terms of like those shows, because it's like they're just like longer movies, really. You know.
I watch it episodically, so
Yeah.
Check out our other podcasts in our United Federation. I don't have all that stuff loaded up here, so we'll just carry on. Trust me, there's stuff.
Oh, we have.
Or do you got
we-
some stuff? Oh, there
we
you
have-
go.
well, I'd have
Yeah,
to
but
go
you
over
see,
here.
but then you're taking my background away.
I know,
So,
but we're just going to be putting up graphics. So we got, the
True.
United Federation of Podcasts. Just hold up a movie podcast with Davan and Murphy
Yep,
every
yep.
second Wednesday. Just did heist
Mhm.
movies. Jaemeel was on.
Yep,
It's
yep.
like
We went
guys
for
like-
4 hours.
4 hours. If
And
you
we
want a
were trying
4-hour
to cut it down
podcast,
to 2.
Yeah, check that out. Davin's also
It was
got
great.
Davan and
It was
Andre
great.
X-rated on Tuesdays. X-Men the animated review show.
Yeah.
What are you guys up to now? What do you do next?
What do we got happening? I think David Cutler's going to join us on Tuesday. I'm not sure, but
Oh.
either way, we'll be there. Back to regular time at 8. And then we have an interview with the voice of Cable Lawrence Bain coming up. And, we got other irons in the fire. Big things over there at X-Ray.
Yeah, and Andre's also got the Graphic Histories podcast.
most
where he-
recently they talked about Godzilla, the history of Godzilla.
Oh, there you go.
With
Hellbound
Adam Gorham, who's
podcast.
also going to come on X-Rated, actually, I think, for our season finale.
There you go. Eamon on Track, a new audio podcast where Eamon, my son, reviews music albums with a different guest. Davin's been on the show. I've been on the show. Jaemeel will eventually be on the show if he ever.
Eventually.
But coming up this Tuesday, Eamon will be talking with Adam Woodward about an album from the Pogues in 1985. It's called Sodomy, something or other.
Something.
Town, I left
Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash. It's called. From
Yeah. Dream to dream by the old canal. Oh yeah, classic.
Yeah. It's gonna be coming up. Trivial Debates is going strong. We're working on the next episode with Chris Seymour hosting, and myself and Davan and Eamon probably coming in to compete for this next one. There's also Live Long and Podcast, the Star Trek channel, all the time. The Mothership, where we're
Yeah,
talking about Star Trek
Mothership
Enterprise,
Connection.
Star Trek Deep Space Nine. We just did Star Trek Picard. We're going to be doing Star Trek Strange New World
New
season
Worlds.
2 in the very near future. All those great shows, plus like Star Trek Radio Theater. We have our debate shows and trivias in our various divisions, and Locutors of Trek. We just did a tier ranking of all the captains, and that was a very popular video. People are demanding we do more of them. And
really?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we might have to indulge them.
You can do the Badmiral one next. Actually, I have some ideas for more of those.
I think maybe I also like maybe rank ships, like maybe like the various the hero ships at least, you know. And going through them, or like the notable ones, so that could be fun. And this channel as well, back here on Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, we're also covering things like Survivor season 44, which has got 2 more episodes to go. Jaemeel and Foster, and sometimes Jeff, you know, he's on there too. We're covering that show, and then Big Brother Canada 11, which is having its finale this Thursday. So we're going to do 2 more podcasts. Jaemeel is going to be covering I think, right? Are you covering Tuesday, Jaemeel?
I guess, yeah.
Well, if you want to. And then Thursday, we're going to Toronto. We're going to be watching the finale. We're going to see Rob has a podcast. And then, you know, we'll see where the night takes us from there. But it's going to be exciting to be downtown, and for the finale, Big Brother's also happening right there.
Davin's favorite place in all of the world.
Yeah, he loves
Toronto.
He loves it.
He loves Toronto.
Stinks.
It's just like when Homer goes to New York City. It's his favorite place. You know, he can't wait to get there.
I looked for Club Kalash everywhere, and I couldn't find any. Go to Toronto. I want Club Kalash.
Yes, I think those are all the plugs. So,
all right,
ABBL. Go back and look at the previous episodes.
Nah. Let it die.
No.
I think you can always come back to it down the road. It's not a bad
we'll
idea.
see.
Simpsons is a great show. So, but I know you have a lot going
I'm
on.
kind of enjoying having 3 podcasts instead of 4.
Well, I don't blame you. You know, so like maybe that's when you do when you're just got nothing else to going on. So
the winter.
Yeah,
I'm out of hibernation now. All right. Thanks for joining us on the Mary Mater Marvel Society Socialites.
Thanks, everybody.
And, see you next time.
You're all just making up stuff that he's saying, right?
No!